All right, part 3. Thank you for sticking with me if you've already watched parts 1 and parts 2 about my rant about conditioning our dogs to pull open weight. So the other thing I do with my dogs is I like to work them about 3 times a week, okay? And I'll get into when that could change later, okay? But in the beginning, if I'm conditioning, I like to work them 3 times a week. And this is where I go back to that high intensity interval training or HIIT training. I like to incorporate interval training. I feel like it allows my dogs to get stronger faster, therefore move up to next weight maybe faster. And so my 3 times during the week all look a little different. So let's say day 1 of the 3, right? The first, it doesn't have to be Monday, but let's just use Monday as an example. We're gonna use Monday, Wednesday, Friday, keep it simple. So Monday, I'm going to add weight, okay? So on days that I'm adding weight, it's going to be a shorter, like conditioning time period, maybe 10 minutes, okay? If you think about it, if you're walking your dog for 10 minutes, you're probably hitting a half a mile anyway, but it's not about the distance. I'm going to do flat, and I'm probably going to do 10 to 12 minutes. That's it. You can see behind me sort of my geography right now. I got flat for days, okay? So flat is easy for me. New weight, flat, 10, 12 minutes, that's it. Put them away, it's done, okay? On the second day of my training, we're gonna call this Wednesday because I'm giving them a break in between. I'm going to then maybe incorporate some hills, okay? So now I might do a shorter session, but they will find some hills or some tall wet grass or some boggy grass, something that gives them, where the terrain is adding to the resistance. Now they're still at that weight, so maybe they're still at 50 pounds, okay? Maybe 50 was my starting weight on Monday, they're still at 50 pounds. I'm gonna work them 3 times at that weight, at least. You can't do too long, okay? You can do too short, but not too long. So that second one is more, the terrain is gonna give them feedback, whether it's hills, whether it's really wet, whether the grass is really long, maybe it's boggy even, but the hills, the terrain are gonna give them some extra like challenge. On the third day, I'm going to do a little bit of a mix of a lot of flat, maybe a little bit of terrain, again, whether that's hills or boggy or grass or whatever you can find. And I'm gonna do a longer stamina workout, okay? So I'm gonna go longer. I might go 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they are out on a freight haul for 20 minutes because you have to stop and start and whatever, right? There are very few 10-minute freight hauls, even though we're only going a half a mile, at least in burners. I know in Swissies and some others are going longer and different, okay? So I'm gonna try to then incorporate more like they would see on a freight haul. They would see some flats, they would see some different terrain, they might see some different grasses, whatever, okay? And then I'm gonna go longer. So during the week, I have added to their weight, I have added to their ability to manage hills up and down and all, because they gotta get used to, ooh, this is new weight, I gotta go downhill, I gotta control it uphill. And then I will do more of a stamina thing. They need all of those pieces to be able to fully be conditioned to go into the ring, right? It's gonna take all of those things. So that's how I will train. And then the following week, depending on how well they did, I will add probably 5 pounds. Yeah, only 5 pounds. I know, I'm the weirdo. I get it, I own it, I'm happy to be the weirdo in this, okay? If they're doing really well, or like maybe they're at lower weights, maybe I'll go from 40 to 50, but I rarely go from 70 to 80, like that's not a thing. So think about using interval training as you condition your dogs. And sorry, I go one more part.